Another beautiful morning and day. We are blessed to be alive. Let's have an amazing trading day, guys, because the markets are looking prime as always for massive movements ahead. Today is a massive day because we have inflation numbers coming out. So let's dive into the markets and see where they are most likely to be heading next. We're going to be discussing all the major dollar pairs and of course gold. So starting off here with EURUSD, we can see that we got a bullish daily candle close yesterday, which was pretty much exactly what we wanted. As we can see here on the daily time frame, and we've been discussing this all week, we can very clearly see that the market has been consolidating in between the 25% level and in between the 75% level. Now, you remember what I mentioned at the beginning of the week. We were looking for that potential further upside from this 25% level. Myself and the inner circle are currently in long positions on euro dollar. So if you want to join in on those trades, make sure to click on the link down below. It is in the chat and description of this video. Now, for the rest, what I'm looking for here on the daily time frame is if we can finally see that next leg up higher and start breaking that these overall highs that we have over here. So we have a lot of liquidity being built up, but I'll show you that on the lower time frame in a second, because the weekly time frame is looking absolutely amazing to take out that previous week high. As we can see over there, this dotted line here is the previous week high. Remember what the weekly structure overall is doing. We have an overall impulse down. However, when do we then expect a pullback after seeing a massive impulse in towards the downside? Well, one, when we come into a liquidity low that we have over here to our left, and number two, when we see a weekly shift in the market structure. So we saw a weekly shift in the market structure once we saw a weekly fractal high break. This here is your fractal high, this blue dotted line. Why is that the fractal high? Because this is the most recent high that broke these lows over here. So ultimately what you're seeing here is a push down, retracement, push down, then a push up, retracement, all the way back down in towards the lows. Remember, we had a area of daily demand situated here at the bottom of the range, right over here with those equal lows right above it over here. We grab that liquidity and then boom, we reverse back in towards the upside. So I'm looking for that upside continuation on EURUSD. Could I be wrong? Yes, absolutely. Today we have inflation numbers coming out and these are going to heavily affect the dollar. So we could and might as well just see a massive reversal in towards the downside. For myself, the biggest confirmation of that dollar continuation in towards the highs will come if we do actually see a break of this high over here. So 1.04677, that is what we need to break in order to start seeing this high over here. And what is so special about this high over here? That is your previous month high, guys. That is the high, I think, if I'm not mistaken, of December. So even of 2 months ago. So I'm waiting for that high of December to get taken out over here, because this is also the internal liquidity of this overall leg in towards the downside here on EURUSD. So on EURUSD, you see a push in towards the downside, but over here, you see a little bump in the road. And above these little bumps in the road, that is where liquidity lies. So I'm looking to target that liquidity, see a push in towards 0.5 and in towards the 618 here on the weekly time frame, and then look for some potential further downside. Okay, so this is short term what I'm looking for from EURUSD. As we can see, yesterday we broke that black line. Remember what I mentioned? Yes, we were consolidating here on the lower time frame. This supply zone remained in control for a short while, but then eventually we were able to push up higher. Now this here is currently the supply zone that you are in. However, I do not have a lot of faith in this supply zone. I could again be wrong, but we have a lot of descending highs here, right? So we have descending high number 1, descending high number 2, descending high number 3. We also have this untouched area of supply, and then we also have this high over here. So I'm actually looking for another impulse in towards the highs here on EURUSD. But again, we will be very dependent on what the news does today. Overall, this area of demand is currently in control. So as long as that demand zone holds, I am still looking for further upside. Let's say that demand zone breaks, then obviously I'll be looking for shorts in towards that 1.0 level on EURUSD, and then I do actually see more downside potentially coming in. But for now, the lower time frame trend is holding, is maintaining. We've seen a push in towards the highs, we've seen a correction, and we're now just looking for this internal trend to facilitate the next overall impulse up here on the 4-hour time frame, as we saw over here. Okay, so that's what we're looking for on EURUSD. Let's move on into the dollar index, because there is a reason, guys. There is a reason why I have been interested in EURUSD longs all along, and that is the dollar index. So starting off here on the weekly time frame, and I do the same analysis pretty much every single day here on the dollar, but it just remains very, very interesting for myself. Here we have a weekly area of supply. So a weekly supply zone, we had an area of consolidation. So what happened here after we tapped above this area of consolidation? Well, here we saw pretty much a blow off top in towards the supply zone, and that's then where you expect a potential reversal to happen from, because when you have an area of consolidation, you always expect the range high or the range low to get liquidated and then for you to see a reversal. Here we have an area of consolidation. What happens? We liquidate the range high and then we expect the reversal. Now the highest probability for a reversal then to happen after liquidating a range will be when you tap into a higher time frame area of supply, as we have over here. Okay, so that is my analysis on the weekly time frame, and therefore I am then looking for further downside. Here on the weekly as well, we've seen a bearish change of character. Again, guys, a bearish change of character is nothing more than a bearish trend shift in towards the downside. All we are seeing here is a push up, a push down, a push up, and then a push down, breaking the market structure in towards the downside. Then we saw a retracement all the way back up into premium, and now again we're just looking for that next downside push in towards in towards this weekly liquidity low. And then from there, potentially we could see some slowdown again, and then maybe a reversal, or obviously just downside continuation back down to the bottom of the range. But that is ultimately what I'm looking for here short term from the dollar index. And then if I look at the daily time frame, what we can see over there is again that we have a daily area of supply right over here. This is an interesting daily area of supply. Why? Well, because it liquidated this area of supply. So this is liquidation, a lot of stop losses getting wicked out by this wick, and then obviously we see the push back in towards the downside, causing a fractal break of structure again. So this here is a fractal low, because here you had a mini uptrend, then we break the low, and now this here is my range high, this here is my range low. We see a reversal back in towards premium pricing. Again, if you draw in your fib retracement tool and we look at premium versus discount, you can very clearly see that we pretty much exactly retrace back up in towards the 0.5 fib. I don't use the actual level, I more use the zone, and then from there we start pushing downwards. And then yesterday, if you do remember yesterday's video, we had a fractal low over here, and we had a important low over here as well, because the overall structure is pretty much like this, and then boom, we see pushing towards the downside. This here becomes your buy before the sell, and then what you can see happening is that we just tap in towards that buy before the sell, and then we sell off again. So I am still looking for further downside here on the dollar index. It does make sense for myself from a technical analysis perspective, and we still have a lot of lows open here as well. We have a low here, we have a low as well, so I want to see all of those lows go before looking for any further upside. So this is kind of like a trend line that we have over here, and we have another trend line over here. I just want to see this, all of that liquidity get stopped out before seeing any further upside or just potential further downside. So that is what I have for the dollar index. Then if I look at AUDUSD, we can see yesterday that we hit our first target. So overall, I've been following the overall 4-hour order flow. You can, however, see that AUDUSD has been extremely consolidative. Obviously, it's waiting for the news to hit. What we had here was our first target. This is kind of like a liquidity high. As you can see, all of these highs trying to take out this high, all failed to do so. So a lot of liquidity being built up above that high. Again, this is the impulse down. In the impulse down, what you have these little bumps in the road. And above these little bumps in the road, like this one over here, that is where liquidity lies. And then as you can see, as soon as we grab that liquidity, that is then when you see a reversal / slowdown within the market overall. So looking for that potential further upside still. However, it is getting very, very messy. Throughout the week, we have, however, held onto the overall 4-hour order flow. So we see the push up, push down, push up. Now we're just looking at the next push down before potentially another push up. This here is currently the demand, so that is in control. I would only be interested on AUDUSD shorts. If we were to break this area of demand again, then I would potentially see some further downside possible still. But for now, demand is definitely in control, so no shorts on the table for myself. Also looking at this from a daily demand perspective and a daily liquidity perspective. As we can see here on the daily time frame, the market overall is consolidating, right? It's stuck inside this box. So what happened again is that when we have a range, what happened here is that we liquidated the range low. So we did this, boom, and then we saw a massive V-shaped reversal in towards the highs. Now what we're trying to do is liquidate the range high. So see another push in towards the upside, and at least go for that blue line. Now at the moment, it does make sense to look for those longs. Why? Well, because this daily area of demand here is in control. Okay, so why is this daily area of demand in control? Well, because here we saw a daily structure shift. So here, structural low break, here, structural high break. So what you see ultimately happening is this push up, push down, and now we're just looking for another push up again. Here, another daily fractal high break. Therefore here, the imbalance becomes your area of demand, and now I'm just looking for a more further upside from AUDUSD, at least in towards that blue line. If guys, this line were to break over here, which is your daily fractal low, then potentially we could head down lower again in towards the bottom of the range. But for now, that is not very likely. Of course, the news can do anything, so do keep it in mind. I'm not expecting too much volume until suddenly then the news will drop this afternoon. News drops here, as you can see, at 2:30 Central Eastern Time in Europe. Moving on in towards GBPUSD. So GBPUSD pushed up very, very hard yesterday, and this kind of comes back to what I mentioned as well this week on GU, that we are very heavily consolidating. You can see here that markets is just stuck in a range. I mentioned this again in yesterday's video, where you can clearly see that we're just kind of consolidating, and we have pretty much this range over here. So let's just draw in the range trading tool in a second. So I use the Fibonacci retracement tool for that, and here we just take the range low and the range high, and then you can pretty much see that the market is just consolidating in between around this level over here. So we have kind of like this 25% level acting as support, and then we have the 75% level acting as an area of resistance. So GU is ranging. That's why I have not personally been a big fan of trading it. Yesterday's supply was in control. Yes, we had an area of supply over here. Then again, yes, we had an area of supply over here. However, I was not personally really looking at those shorts here, because myself, I am in EURUSD buys, and because the dollar index, guys, the dollar index is bearish, right? So when the dollar index is bearish, as I've already explained in this video, then you don't really want to be going long, or excuse me, short on, for example, GBPUSD, because GBPUSD is very heavily dependent on what? Two things: EURGBP and the dollar index. And if we look at EURGBP, we can see very clearly that we were also inside and coming from an area of supply. And as you can see from this week, we've been reacting to this imbalance over here, pushing the market down lower, and that in turn has been pushing GBPUSD up higher as well. So yeah, just keep it in mind. Overall, staying out of GU until further notice, as we are currently moving sideways, therefore focusing more on EURUSD and AUDUSD itself. Going into NZDUSD, NZDUSD is also an interesting one. We can see that the drawing from yesterday still stands. Been looking for that further upside push. Overall here, if we zoom out, it is very similar to AUDUSD still. Again, we have an area of consolidation. So inside this area of consolidation, what happens? We liquidate the range low, range high is still open. So just looking for that range high now to get swept. Also from a daily fractal structure perspective, what can we see? Here we had a low break, here we had a high break. So overall push down, retracement push down, boom, push up. Therefore this over here then becomes your daily area of demand. So interested in buys from that daily area of demand, but then what do we need? We need the lower time frame to provide us with a nice setup. So how can we then identify a potential nice setup? Well, we want to first of all look for lower time frame order flow. So what we had here was a liquidity low, and this is pretty much the last low over here, right? Because this is the overall impulse up, and this is like a little bump in the road up, which we had before kind of like this entire clean move down. Also, this was an untouched area of demand over here as well, which we came back down into to tap into, and then from there we pushed back up higher again. So what I'm now looking for over here, what I was looking at itself, is that we had pretty much this area of supply over here in control. Then we had this area of supply here in control. And now what happened yesterday is that we pretty much broke this area of supply that was in control. Therefore, what I'm now looking at is this as my area of demand overall. So this is like the bigger picture area of demand. If you were to refine it, you could refine it to, let's say, these candles over here, these imbalance candles over here. It's not the most clear, I would say, out of all pairs at the moment, because also it's just a little bit consolidative, but we can see that we're kind of moving within this descending range here, and our market is trying to break out. What I'm now looking for ultimately, just before getting into any longs at all, is for us to shift order flow again one more time. So I want to see another high break over here, and then I'll have a lot more conviction that we're ready to push up higher. But overall, I mean, demand is in control, so I'm not interested in shorts yet. Yes, if we do break the lows, then obviously it will be just waiting for a new order flow shift again before any potential further longs. But for now, what I'm kind of looking at is, okay, can we break this high and see some more upside here on NZDUSD? Last of all, we have, of course, gold. So gold itself yesterday made a very nice retracement. Remember, in yesterday's video, we had two areas of demand. So we had demand zone number 1, which was positioned over here, which did not get respected. And we had demand zone number 2 down below over here, which did get respected. So this demand zone number 2 over here, down here, was the more interesting one. Why? Well, because obviously inside of this demand zone number 1, there was no real bullish confirmation. So if you go in towards the 1 hour or you go in towards the 15-minute, this is what I mean with bullish confirmation, where you see the market retrace in towards a demand zone itself. So let's say this is just your overall demand zone. You can very clearly see that the market pushes down, retraces, pushes down, retraces, pushes down, retraces, pushes down, retraces, pushes down. Like there's no bullish intention at all. So you need to wait for bullish order flow to start to be created. So for example, yesterday, after tapping in towards this lower area of 4-hour demand, which we had positioned over here, right? So this sell before the buy over here, you then go into the 15-minute, and what you see on the 15, you come in towards that demand zone, and then a V-shaped reversal back out. Then you see push up, pull down, push up, pull down, push up, right? So here I was actually interested in potential longs, but it was at 6:15 Central Eastern Time. That is a time that I absolutely do not trade anymore because volume is low, and then you can see the volume just dies down. It just starts ranging. So now gold is ranging. Let's say this happened within the New York session, then I would have been interested in looking for further longs and trading that order flow up higher. But for now, what do we need again? Well, we need order flow to shift, because now again, the market is just bearish here in towards the downside. So what do we need? We need to see bullish momentum come in. So we need to break this high, push down, break this high, push down, and then we can get into longs back up in towards this high over here. Okay, so that is what I'm looking for. Otherwise the market will just continue down lower and lower. So don't try to catch the bottom, try and catch the trend. Okay, that's super important for yourself. So looking at that, guys, that is overall what I'm looking for today. Wish you all a fantastic trading day, and speak to you inside Discord.